It is not enough to talk about mental health. The work is only half done, even when actions are taken. Mindfully with Tunmise, the podcast is putting her mouth where her money is. This November, join us at a Fight for Life as we bring support, awareness, and hope to people who need it the most. Here at Mindfully with Tunmise, we believe that every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. So join this crucial fight for life, an event dedicated to raising awareness about men's health and preventing the silent epidemic of suicide. November 23, 2024 at the Rembrandt Hotel, Ikeja. Follow Mindfully with Tumishe for details about registration. Hello and welcome to Mindfully with Tumishe, the podcast. Of course, you know that we're ramping up we are gearing up, not ramping. Well, everything is correct. Gearing up for a fight for life for November, and I remember also that earlier in the year, that's around June, when we're doing the Men's Mental Health Month, Ola and I said we had this conversation right around parenting, and then we said we're going to talk about emotions and feelings. So welcome to another episode where Ola and I are going to try to unlock some of the concepts that come up for us whenever we're having conversations. Hello, Ola.
Hello, hi, how are you doing? How are you doing now?
How do you?
What's me? I come and I come in peace, but you always want to bring up violence. Why? I'm a man of peace.
Please. Don't be you. All right. So
it's good to be here.
Before we get into the conversations, and you know that when we talked about emotions and feelings in that episode, I'm going to link that episode in the show note, so that people go back to listen to it, and then we'll. Before we talk about emotions and feelings, it was also the time that we hinted that we might be holding a conference for men in November, trying to live through November. You want to take us through that for a moment? Let me take a back seat on this one. You want to take us through that for a moment?
The November?
Yes, please. The fight for life. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I'm smiling again.
Yeah, I can see.
I think I'm having this problem because I'm particularly interested in what happens to men. I've been doing a bit of reflection on my father's life, right? And I think that such conferences would have helped him to find this true identity outside of the experiences of his growing up, of several kinds of trauma that happened to him. It would probably have helped him to begin to understand who he is as against who he's been told. That he is. The fight for life is our own contribution to saying that men can have it better. Right? Men can live a life of beauty, right? Without being subjected or subjecting themselves to the dictates of what the society says about men. The conference is strictly for men.
And the women will love them.
Men.
And the women will love them.
Let the women who love them sit down at home and get the information from them. Because men still find it difficult to say some things in the presence of women because they do not know how women would react to them being vulnerable, right? And the vulnerability is part of who we are. If we are unable to be vulnerable, we're unable to touch the core, because the part of the core is your ability to be real. Your part of your ability to be real is to be vulnerable. You cannot be stoic every single time without showing emotions and expect to fully enter into who you really are. So strictly for men to have conversations, to have play, mindfulness, and touch on areas of their lives, where maybe even if it's a 1 degree shift, even if it's a 1 degree shift can determine a totally different destination for them as men. All right, let me keep this because I can go
Yeah,
on and on.
because I was going to say, okay, it's okay, because we're just going to go on and on about that. The parts I'm excited about for this conference and 1 day retreat is the guided meditation, the games. I'm excited for the bonding, the speakers we're going to have. And the topics that we're going to talk about, really, really excited about that. Of course, we'll be releasing the details of that as we go. Just follow us on Mindfully with Tunmise, and definitely you can follow Bodola on on Instagram. Yes, Bodola, I said Bodola. You will find,
Yes,
and you'll find updates of that. And of course, you'll begin to see our infomercials and see me on a lot of radios and TV shows trying to explain and trying to bring flesh to this. And I've seen statistics, and since all I must tell you that since we started planning this, I've been listening and researching. Now we send each other reels almost every day, and we're finding that this is a very, very, very it is extremely important. And I was talking to someone this morning. The person said, "You know what, Auntie Michelle, that's what the person said. I think that it's actually very beautiful that you're starting with men, because she believes, and it just echoes my own belief that if men are men, women will be women. They'll be protected, and children and the family would be."
I agree totally.
Yeah,
I agree totally.
All right. So on that note, we welcome you to this episode where we will be making good our promise that we will do an expose on emotions and feelings. Trust me, I'll not be talking so much because this guy has done lots of research, and like you said, he's reflecting a lot. He's been reflecting a lot, especially on his relationship with his father and himself, and how he's beginning to connect with the world, and dare I say himself. So you remember, Ola, that when we're having this conversation, I did say that I did not know the difference between emotions and feelings. So do you want to start from there? I have some answers because I've done some research, but I don't want to speak too much philosophy.
Let's just have a conversation.
Let's just have a conversation. Yeah. So, what are emotions as against feelings?
Okay, so I'm going to try and make it as simple as I can, and I'm hoping that, as I say it, it's actually as simple as it is. Not that the concepts are simple, but I'm trying to make the understanding of it simple. I used to wonder, why are we always using emotions and feelings interchangeably? I think, again, I'm not so much of a student of English, but I like to understand words and usage, right? And so I began to think, so what exactly, why would we use them? And a bit of a study revealed to me that there actually is a difference. And I like how most times when we talk about feelings, you hear us use the word like, I feel, right? I like how, to a large extent, when people talk, they say they feel, but they still don't know what the difference is between their emotions and their feelings, right? Emotions basically are the complex psychological state that involves subjective experience of psychological response and our behavioral response.
Mm.
So emotion is complex. Emotion is complex, right?
Okay.
And they say there are basically six emotions, that they usually talk about, which is happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. Since from these six emotions that the feelings come from. As I said, I've tried to explain, I've tried to define what emotion is. Let me now try and talk about what feelings are.
Feelings are.
Now, the difference between the complexity of emotions and the complexity of feelings is that feelings are subjective. That's where the complexity of feelings are. Feelings are basically dependent on the human being, the experiences they've had, the learnings they've had with relationship to a particular emotion. Right. So let me give an example. Maybe this would help, right? So an example would be let's walk this together. Okay. You hear a loud noise in the middle of the night. What's the emotion? A loud noise in the middle of the emotion. Yeah, just the emotion you feel will be what? It's likely to be what?
It's likely to be fear, really.
It's likely to be fear. Exactly. Right. Now, what is the feeling when you begin to process that emotion? What is the feeling that comes to you? What's the feeling?
The feeling of fear.
When you begin to process, if you now take the time, the feeling of, think about it. What exactly is fear? What does fear mean in that context for you?
I'm not safe. I'm thinking.
That's it. That's the feeling. Now that's the feeling. You're unsafe. What's happening in my house? I'm vulnerable. Those are the feelings associated. That's your own subjective interpretation of what that emotion means to you. Do you get that? So emotions are not entirely subjective because there are just about 6 of them. They can't be subjective. But there's a whole range of what feelings can mean to you. Someone else, right? Someone else in your situation who may not have had your own experience may hear a loud thud, a loud noise in the middle of the night, and jump up and say, okay, I'm expecting somebody, that's a knock on the door. You see that person has arrived. They don't feel unsafe. Do you understand? So the emotion they feel is not fear. Probably happiness because that person has arrived.
Okay, so would you then say, Ola, that emotions are more instinctive and feelings are reflective?
When you say instinctive, let's be on the same page. What does that mean?
Yeah. So what I'm getting from this conversation now is an emotion is something that comes up for me from an external stimuli. So somebody knocks on my door, I feel the emotion that come up for me is fear. And the reason the knock on the door will birth fear in me in that moment is probably because of how it's probably because as a child growing up in Akonjo, we had in the middle of the night, we had almost every weekend we had thieves come to the house. Right, almost every weekend. I'm not even exaggerating. Almost every weekend we had thieves come to the house at night. All right, of course they come at night, So
Right.
a knock on the door at night for me, the first thing that will come up for me is fear. Is like, I'm unsafe.
Right.
What's going on here? Should I go
Right.
pick? Should I go?
Right.
Should I run to my father and
Right.
stand by him because
Yes.
when that used to happen to me, to us as children, especially myself and my immediate brother, when that used to
Right.
happen, we used to stand by my father while he tried to shoot them out. Okay, so that is why
Right.
a knock for me, a knock in the middle of the night will
Right.
is the first thing that comes is, am I safe? Am I safe?
Right.
Then
Right.
the feeling that will come, because I'm grown now, I'm no longer in my house. I live in my father's house. I live in my house, and I'm now reflecting on it. Oh, why did that come up for you? Why do you think you're not safe here? So that's why I asked that question.
Right.
Would you say then that emotions are, a subject of an external stimuli that has come to live with you, and then
Right.
feelings then come up after you have processed that?
I agree with you. Yes. So to a large extent, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly. So I was studying children, right? I was studying a short clip that made me do a bit more digging into why, and I even saw one this morning. A few years ago, I went to Benin Republic and they invited us to go into one particular place to carry snake. I'm sorry, no, thank you very much. Oh, thank you very much. God bless you.
I'm not doing this. Yeah.
I'm not interested. I can even come with a lot of religious backing up to excuse myself from doing that. And just this morning, I saw they put the tail of a snake into a baby's baby couldn't be 1 year, right? They put the tail of a baby of a snake, a big snake, not that big, but big enough small enough for the child to be able to hold the tail in his hands. Guess what the baby wanted to do? He literally put the thing in his mouth.
Wow.
His emotional response was not fear. His emotional response probably is, this is a
curiosity. Yeah.
Oh, curiosity. This is so he's like you said, his instinct hasn't built the place where he has replaced curiosity with fear. Right. So I agree with you that these are things, our emotions change over time based on the things that happen to us. Right. I agree with you. I agree with you totally. And again, go on.
I'm with you.
So I'm thinking that how then can we become better, right, by using our feelings to calm down our emotions? Okay, because I believe that's the only.
That's the only thing.
That's what I said.
Because because
I'm thinking a lot.
I know you're thinking on your feet and everything is going on in your head right now. So, but I want to go back to what you said about a snake. Right? There's nothing that's going to help. Right. That's going to make me pick up a snake. There's nothing. There's nothing that's going to make me think that a cat is a pet.
It's a useful animal in the house.
Yeah, it's like a domestic pet. Okay, so I think what my question here is what I'm trying to get at right now is whether our cultural backgrounds influence the way we understand and express emotions and feelings. And I say that because, of course, you know why, as a Yoruba girl, a cat and a black cat as that.
For that matter.
A cat and a black cat at that will send me to a place of insecurity, will send me to a place of mutual suspicion, will send me to it sent me to a place of mutual suspicion, basically, because what we grew up, the narrative we grew up with is that the black cat can easily be possessed. Yeah. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing someone holding a black cat, and in my head, I'm seeing Yao Shugbo. Nothing against the Shugbo people, but you know where that reference is coming from. So my question really is, emotions, and can we divorce our cultural background from what comes up for us for any event?
You know, you rightly said that these emotions build up from the things that happen to us.
Yeah.
Right. Culture happens to us. Right. Culture happens to us. And if culture happens to you,
All right. So, Ola, I think what I'm trying to ask is if our emotions are predicated upon, cultural dispositions, cultural conditioning. Yeah. And just like I had explained earlier, you see a cat as a Yoruba girl, mutual suspicion. You see a cat as a Yoruba girl, somebody is going to do you. So what do you think about that?
yeah, I see that. And I like you said, one of the things you said, something you said earlier was that emotions usually are formed by what happens to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And culture happens to us. Culture, they say, is a way of life of the people, right? So culture is something that the moment you come into a particular uh, culture, you're born into a particular society, the influences of that society is most likely to form how you react to some things, right? If you grew up in an environment where cats are viewed as demonic or possessed beings, right? It's most likely that you grew up with that mindset, right? And then in time, you see a cat, right? And then see a big black cat. The kind of fear that would, step on your neck would be amazing. So yes, culture has a way of being part of what forms. Culture is, like you said, culture is external. It's not inbuilt. There's no culture that we came to this life with. Culture is something that we meet around here, and then what culture is saying. When we talked about men, this is part of what we talked about. This is part of what the conversations we are having in November. How the society has said a few things about men, and that men, rather than reflect and break free from those things that society has said about them, we have chosen to hold those things as true, whereas they are just opinions, and opinions are not necessarily true. Truths are supreme. Truth should reign. So if we are unable to break from the mold of a society saying this about men, rather than seeking for what is the truth, we will live our lives at the level of those opinions, right? So yes, there's no way except which is what I was talking about, how to overcome these emotions, right? Is to reflect on the feelings. What's the feeling I feel, right? And then begin to ask questions of those feelings. Why do I feel unsafe? Right? Where is this coming from? Let's use the case of the car. Why do I feel unsafe with the car around me? Right? Okay, it's safe, or if you feel unsafe because this is what has happened. Is it really true? Have I seen this for myself? Those are questions you're asking to, reduce the intensity of the emotions that you feel when you encounter a cat, right? If you are successful with this question and answer, which of course that's what reflection is really about, I believe that you should come to a place where even if you do not live with the cat in your house, your the emotions of fear that you have that are intense when you come around them or they come around you would be reduced. Because you don't feel the intensity of those emotions at that level anymore. Your response, your feelings are no longer, the feelings you feel are no longer saying you're unsafe around them, right? You can say you're cool with them, but you still don't want them in your house.
All right,
right. And I think that's how we can, go on, please.
All right.
At the risk of
what's the word I'm looking for now? At the risk of selling myself. At the risk of selling myself, that's basically what I try to capture with living mindfully, right? When I said, remember the acronym STOP, Breathe, Notice, Reflect, Respond, and Resolve. Because when you get into a place, if something irritates you, if something annoys you, if something gets you angry, and you are beginning to feel, why is it doing this to you? If you can stop at that moment, you've gotten to a place of awareness enough to get to that moment where you can question yourself why this is happening and why you are responding the way you're responding. You'll be able to resolve that and probably manage the expression of that emotion that comes through feelings for that event. Am I with you?
You are absolutely correct. And when you said something now that just raised something that maybe there is something for me that I want to chip in, and I think that we are unable to do anything about our emotions because we are not self-aware. It takes a level of self-awareness to understand how you feel, not just the emotions of fear, how you feel, and then begin to understand why you feel how you feel. It takes a level of self-awareness. I think I shared a reel with you. I shared a reel with you recently that absolutely, it just confirmed what I've always believed. When you ask people, what's your level of self-awareness? People are always doing 7, 8, and I'm always tripping. Like, I see these people and I know that on a good day, I don't think I'm anywhere above 4 in terms of my level of self-awareness, maybe even a 3. And I am self-aware, right? But I don't think I'm beyond 3 or 4. And I see people who are
not. And then
this is not judging them; it's observing them. And I know that they are not anywhere close to being self-aware, and they're saying they are 7 or 8. Now, this kind of people would find it very difficult to be able to say, this is what I feel, and this is why I feel what I feel. So yes, you're right. If you're unable to, if you're unaware, right, enough to stop and process, you're going to be stuck in that phase.
In the little time we have what, maybe about 5 minutes left around this. A little time. Let me tell you what came up for me, and this is in therapy, about emotions and feelings and how the body does keep scores about this. And you and I, I think we've gotten to that level where we know that when you have a stomachache or you have a headache, is not, and you know that you're doing everything right. Your body is trying to process something. I didn't know. I've always thought that I just have my stomach is just very sensitive. I've always thought that my stomach was very sensitive, and yet I love food. I love to make food and all that. But it was when I was in therapy, Moji says to me that, have you noticed that whenever you are anxious, whenever you're trying to an emotion or an experience or an event that you have repressed is coming up, you will constantly have stomach upset and you're stooling. And there was a particular time I stooled for 42 days, for 7 days, trying to process an information, and events that happened in my life. And it was then I was like, oh, that's true. And now now I know the moment I start because I don't have that that tunnel vision, rabbit hole thing that they say they have when people are anxious. Because I grew up suppressing and repressing my thoughts, my emotions, and feelings. So my mind never got to that point where something is happening and then I'm confused, I'm anxious, and what is going on is I'm going to be going to the toilet. What is going on is I'm going to be flatulent.
Right.
And my stomach will be so. And for the longest time, I'm probably still still what's it called, an ulcer patient. But since I have come to the realization or the understanding that when an emotion that I'm trying to process, that I can't process, when I can't process it, that my body responds with constant stooling, and it's really, really constant. Even water, I'm going to stool it out. Since I came to that understanding, I've not had an ulcer attack, as we say it, in the longest of time.
Right.
And so what I'm trying to say here and ask you, because you and I have shared we've shared experiences about something going on, and your stomach is upset because you're trying to process something. And both of us are not psychologists or psychiatrists or anything, but these are things that have come up for us.
Right.
Do you process? How does your body process stress, anger, anxiety? Do you know?
Okay, so I think it's a lot better for me now because I keep working on my self-awareness. And I don't, excuse me, I don't know why self-awareness seems to be a big word for a lot of people, but self-awareness is just an awareness of your thoughts, your emotions, and your feelings. That's what it is about, right? So now I can tell that I'm going to get angry. I'm not angry yet, but I can tell I'm going there. So I have I've forgotten what it's called. It's the opposite of trigger words, that I use to calm myself. And it's as simple as saying, okay, I've heard you. I don't agree with you, but it's fine. That I don't know what that does to me, but it jacks me back from the brink of that anger. It just jacks me back. It just tells me, if you do not bring yourself away from this situation right now, you are going to begin to do things that you would not be able to explain.
Right. So I think
because that's the irrational mind.
Okay. Yeah. So if you are going to round this off now, Ola, what would you be saying is the takeaway from managing emotions and feelings? What would you be saying?
Be self-aware. Be self-aware. It's the self-aware. I don't know. There's nothing else I can say for anyone who has not taken upon themselves that journey of self-awareness, because that's what will help you to understand why you feel what you're feeling and how to be better at everything around those things. That's it. Be self-aware.
All right. For me, though, again, this is why I love the book, The 4 Agreements by Don Ruiz. I'm sure that if Don was Yoruba or something, like his ear will be ringing every time I speak about the 4 Agreements. And the 4 Agreements simply said, the beginning of that's the book. The beginning of the book says that we were domesticated, and we don't have a choice at how we are domesticated. And domesticated now definitely means conditioning and all that. But as we grow up and we interact with other people from other cultures, from everywhere in the world, you begin to see some things that might not align with your person, with the way your mind works and all of that. If you allow yourself to lean into that truth, you can then live within the 4 agreements of not being impeccable with your words, not taking anything personally, not making assumptions and that not taking things personally. Yeah, because if we are saying that emotions are birthed from external stimuli, whatever, things that have happened to us, things that nurture has birthed in us, we can. All right. So what I was trying to say, Ola, was that, why I love Don Miguel Ruiz's The Full Agreement is, if we are aware of our conditioning, it doesn't mean that all our conditioning is bad. It doesn't mean that all our domestication is bad. But you are relating with other people now. You are being with other people now. You're having children. You're having emotional relationships. You're having romantic relationships. If you are aware that what could be true for you could be untrue for another person, and you get to that place where you are you don't take it personally that they don't understand what you're saying, but the relationship is fair enough that you can build, that people can then have conversations like, oh, this is why I think the way I sing, this is how I, it doesn't mean that is why I don't like, this is how I am, leave me like that. No, it is how you are, because you were nurtured and natured in a certain way, but then you are interacting with other people now. Can you sit back and have a true conversation with yourself, and do, like you said, question and answer, and that's basically what reflecting is, and see how that, where that takes you. There's no how that we're going to be talking emotions and feelings that we're not going to go into different, because it ties everything together. We can't talk emotions and feelings without talking about our stories of origin, just like we have established at the beginning of the show. Our stories of origin. Though I'm better around animals now, it doesn't mean I'm good. I still love them endlessly for their the metaphors that they provide for a writer like me. I love them on National Geographic Wild. In my head, an animal, I know people say that animals are intelligent, and it's true, I give that to animals, but they can't communicate with me. I can't communicate with them. And the reason is simple. Like, my mother had a poultry, and I've been chased endlessly by a turkey because I was wearing red. These are the things that condition us. And if we stop to analyze that, I think we might just be able to navigate because our emotions are not going anywhere. Your anger is not going anywhere. Your anxiety is not going anywhere. Your irritability is not going anywhere. Your joy is not going anywhere. So that it's not look like we're talking only about negative things. All this, like you said, there are about 6 of them. They're not going anywhere. But how do you then navigate them, that when you express them through feelings that other people can feel, it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't hurt others? I started with your again. See what you want to say. Yeah?
Nothing. I'm agreeing with you, because yes, you're being so on point.
So again, before we round this off, and then we'll talk about the next episode. Hopefully, you and I will be able to wrap this this emotion and feelings thing around men. I am not a man, because I've had, since I put out the flyers and infomercials for what's it called, for November in a Fight for Life. People have been asking me, why do you care? And I could do a lecture on why I care, and I could do a 2-hour lecture on how I care. If somebody has called me that I still am living under some form of patriarchy, to think that men need a special attention. So, I've had, and it just strengthens my resolve. And one of them is that I believe that, if, just like my son said, that if we give men the tools, emotional tools or whatever it is that we want to call it, on how not to start the war, because a man is designed by God, by the supreme, by the universe, by whatever it is you want to call it, to be a protector, a fighter, and all that. But if we can give men the tools of how not to start the war, the girl wouldn't have to fight so much. I have a son, I have a daughter, and I look at the world through their eyes. I have brothers. I have. I don't know. I can never say I have two brothers. I have three brothers. One is whatever. But I have two brothers. I had a father who I believe also, though he was extremely chauvinistic and he lived in a world, he lived in this world of patriarchy. I also believe they had some questions to answer, because I saw both extremes of him. I saw him very, very loving and expressive and all of that. I also saw him, oh my. And everything was it was just a box of paradoxes for me. And as a child, I asked myself the question of, how can a man be so loving yet so angry? These are the things that, like I said, I could give a 2-hour lecture on it. Someone who also knew me, who said to me, I know your story, the molestations and all that. Why are you fighting for men? And the answer is simple. If the man was properly modeled to, if the man was properly mentored, if we had the right tools and we did not condition men to think that their definition of masculinity is in whatever it is that they take over. A man is designed to take over. And when a man, and I'm not being a rape apologist here. No, nobody should say that about me, because if you know my story, you know that I'm not being a rape apologist. But instead of continuing that cycle, what are the solutions that we can bring for the next generation, for the people that we are birthing, for the people that are already broken, that are trying to find a way to get better? And that is the major essence for a fight for life. Of course, you and I have seen the statistics. And that is in Europe alone. In Europe alone, a man dies every 9 seconds by suicide. 90 minutes by suicide. So we're saying that in an hour and a half, in a day, about 7-8 people are going to kill themselves. If this is not about, let's not even go into the women, because women so expensive. There's postnatal depression, there's that position, there's psychosis, there's a lot going on with women and with us. And I'm not shying away from that, because all of this has happened to me. You know this, and we'll get to that. But I think that, yes, equity is beautiful, gender equity and all that is beautiful. But some people are going to come for me with this. A man is a man, a woman is a woman. I don't want to be a woman. I don't want to be a man. I want to be a man. Yeah. A man is a man. I don't want to be a man. I don't want that responsibility. Yes, I said it, and somebody's going to say, "What do you mean by that?" I don't want that responsibility. I want the responsibility of a woman, and I want to ask him that and enjoy that. And a woman is, a helper, and that is why I'm championing this cause. Your turn. I've spoken for what? Your turn now. Go ahead. Yeah.
What do you want me to talk about?
round this episode, I just noticed that I just ranted off.
So much. You said so much.
I could go on that topic forever, but round this off, Ola, before I go on another tangent. Yeah.
Okay, let me just say that for this okay, so I'm going to refrain myself from speaking to just men. I'm going to speak generally, and I think that for me it has always been not the issue of why are we hammering on the issue of the girl child. For me, that is not the issue. For me, the issue is why are we not thinking or taking the issue of the boy child as
seriously,
seriously, maybe even more so than that of the girl child. Because if we know and we are aware of the statistics of violence perpetrated by boys versus girls, and I'm not saying men now, I'm talking about boys, children at that age. There's this story in the social media of a 15-year-old boy that went into his neighbor's house and battered the face of a 14-year-old girl and raped her. I honestly, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But this is the story that I've just recently read, right? Of a 200 level university student of a university in Nigeria who has murdered 3 females. Right. I don't understand it. I'm saying this based on what I've read because my mind just is unable. I cannot kill a wall gecko. I cannot kill a wall gecko. If it has the capacity to bleed, I can't kill. I can kill mosquitoes because they suck my blood. I can kill cockroaches. I can't kill anything that has. But if we do not take these issues seriously, to begin to put into these children, the boys at the early stage between the ages of 0 and 12. If you don't work hard at putting into them the values that we want to see in the society, we're leaving them to pick up any values that makes the most attraction to them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's basically
it's upon us to do. That's what it is. It's upon us to do the work. When November comes together, if we can speak one word to a man that changes his perspective on how to raise his child, right? And we can. Some of the things that we call generational causes. I wrote something about it recently. Some of the things that we call generational causes are just traumas that have passed down the bloodline. That's why that's what some of these generational causes really are. So if one man can say, you know what, this generational curse stops with me, and can take that stand and raise his child differently and shows his son how to love, how to behave, how to be respectful, how to be courteous, how to behave. At the very least, he can show. We can't speak of how the child can learn or pick up, but if he can show this child these values that are optimized for a better society, then we would have done something in the direction of pushing forward the narrative that not just the girl child is important, but the boy child is also important in building a society, the kind of society that we can go to sleep in peace and wake up in peace, not peace.
All right. Okay. We had promised ourselves that we're not going to work on the gender biases, because gender biases annoy me. Again, let me not start. But let me know. Because these are battles that we don't even know how
there.
they
You're
start.
going there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for being part of Mindfully with Tunmise this week. Of course, Ola and I will be having a lot of conversations towards Movember, a fight for life. Movember is a fight for life. If you have never heard of Movember, just Google Movember. It is a month where men's health are the focus. And the major focus here is not just the prostrate, but suicide prevention. right? And that is very dear to me. I'm going to write something about it and post it, but I'll say it here for those who are hearing it for the first time. I'm a survivor, four attempts, and in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The fourth one was the last one because I have something to live for. My life matters. So when I say that the focus of November is the fight for life, is suicide prevention, know that I'm not speaking over your head, and I can tell you that you can overcome and live with the overwhelming thoughts and navigate them better for a better you. Until next time, love yourself, love your neighbor, love your country. Above all of this, love God. He is the essence of your being. Follow us on social media, Mindfully with Tunmise, everywhere, and you can always drop us a text. Don't forget to register for a Fight for Life on November 23rd, 2024.